see what I'm gonna talk about a lot of stuff tonight, because instead of the other day, I had several people that wanted that pointed out that the example that you had on As You Learn was slightly different than the output that you got from the newer version of JASP, and that's kind of to be expected. They change those things fairly regularly. They don't, that's one of the things of working with the beta, is that as they add new pieces or fix things or whatever, you tend to, you kind of lose track of where you're supposed to be. There we go. My cat had been playing with the camera and the monitor earlier, so somehow I got all the way over there instead of over here where it's supposed to be. But you have to kind of expect those things working with software, particularly when you're working with a beta. And JASP is, still a beta version. It probably always will be. It'll be one of those things that just kind of, it's like R. You just kind of keep adding to it and refining it and that sort of stuff. But so I thought I would talk about that slightly differently rather than to go back and make new examples for what you've already gotten up. Now from here on out, I'll use the new one, so I'll make sure the examples are all updated with the newer screen setups and the newer output and that sort of stuff. But until then, I thought it was kind of an important time to add a piece that has to do with, what are the bits and pieces of the output that are meaningful to you, that are useful to you, as opposed to, here's everything you get and now you're supposed to make some sense out of it. And it really is only a couple pieces of information on most bits and pieces of output. So we'll kind of run some of that and take a look at that just to explain that a little bit. But before we do that, I guess it's would be appropriate to ask if there are any questions. Now, any questions that have to do with the differences in your screens and example screens and stuff like that, or the output screens or whatever, we'll deal with that in a minute. But otherwise, what questions you may have at this point, just give you a quick update. The next 2 weeks, you will be getting a few additional video components, one having to do with analysis of variance and one having to do with correlation and regression. And or maybe there might be two separate ones there, I'm not quite sure. Normally I handle those together, but I might separate them this time. And also a series of sort of examples for you to work through with a new data set, which I'm going to show you, introduce to you tonight, but also the way in which we can work through that the next couple of weeks. As I say, next week I don't know that I'll be reachable. Hopefully not, but you never know. How people in cabins say we have excellent internet, but that generally means you can barely get your cell phone to work. So we will kind of see how all that comes together, but I'm not anticipating to be reachable much next week. And so these things will be kind of self-guided to a certain extent, and we'll encourage you to, try after looking at an example and kind of working through an example or whatever to, okay, we'll answer this question now. And then, then there will be an answer sheet that I'll put together for that also. Now, after I get back, which will be week after next, I guess, we will put up some new videos and put up the first quote unquote official evaluation, which is really, we'll be kind of working through those examples next week. It'll be kind of like an evaluation at that process too, but we'll put we'll do quote unquote an official evaluation I can give you some feedback on. You can do a rewrite on, and the idea is just to get you to understand those things and get those things right. And so, you know, I'm not worried about any grade or anything like that on those things. And then we'll follow that very quickly with another one about a week later, 10 days later, which will lead up to the final piece. And then the final piece will incorporate a couple of new things, a couple of additional things we'll add. And then it'll be handled just like the others in terms of the same format, the same way of doing it, working with new data set maybe. And, you know, 2 shots at it if you need 2 shots at it. So I'm anticipating by the time we get to the last shot of the final exam or the final evaluation, you will have done pretty much everything at least twice, if not 3 times. And so we'll, you know, you should be in pretty good shape. So anyway, that's my plan. Now, any questions or okay, good enough. Then I'm gonna cut this thing off.